The mission is simple: to help high achievers naturally eliminate emotional and physical obstacles so they can optimize their life for higher achievement. Welcome. You have just entered the Genesis Zone. Good day and welcome to the Genesis Zone show. This is Dr. Brian Brown. Thank you for taking time out of this beautiful Thursday and your busy schedule to join us. What if we could have a world without depression, anxiety, ADHD, or any host of other psychiatric disorders? In today's show, I'm going to reveal how this is possible. I know it sounds impossible, but it's not. And I'm going to teach you how we can do that. Back when I was growing up, we did not have cable. I know it's hard to believe in this day and age, a life without cable, but we just didn't have cable TV. And if I'm being completely honest, it was quite some time before we even got the TV antenna that you put on top of the house. We had rabbit ear antennas on top of our TV that had to be adjusted just right every time you wanted to watch any kind of show or movie. Now, Western flicks, when I was a kid, they were my jam. And I dreamed of being a cowboy. So I obsessed about these cowboy movies. So naturally, I learned about becoming a blood brother with a close friend through these movies. And I'd seen it over and over again. And one day, while me and my best friend were playing, we decided that we wanted to become blood brothers. Now, if you know what that entails, it means making a cut on the wrist and so on and so forth. Well, I had this little pocket knife, and I'm talking teeny tiny little pocket knife. It was kind of one of those 3-in-1 little tools, and it was dull as all get out. You couldn't cut paper with it, much less, human flesh, skin. So it was super dull, and we couldn't find anything to make our pact with. So like any other 7-year-old boy, two boys, we went on the hunt. And at the time we lived in a city that was traditional city blocks with alleyways, and we hit the alleys scouring for something sharp that we could use to make this pact with. And naturally we ran across something. And it was an aluminum pie plate. Remember those aluminum pie plates? They were a lot more thicker then than they are now. They're a lot more flimsy now. But we tore one of those aluminum pie plates, and we had that sharp edge that we needed to make our pact. So we put some superficial scratches on our wrist. Yeah, we were a little too chicken to make deep cuts, but we put some superficial scratches on our wrist, and we put our wrists together and tied our wrists together with a piece of rope and repeated to each other, blood brothers to the end. Now, later that night, my mom noticed the scratches on my wrist. And she immediately thought that I was somehow suicidal. And I didn't even know what the term suicidal meant. And I was even more appalled and shocked when I found out actually what that term did mean. It took me weeks to convince my parents that I was not suicidal. Now, sadly, I wouldn't have those suicidal thoughts until much later in life, in my late 20s. Depression is real. I struggled with it for 16 years and did the whole, what I call trial and terror thing, trying 9 different medications during that 16-year period that never really seemed to work. So it's no surprise that I went into psychiatry over 23 years ago. And if I'm being honest, I went into psychiatry because I wanted to figure myself out. I wanted to get resolution and healing for the depression and anxiety that plagued me starting in my 20s. So we jump into today's topic, keeping that in mind. My passion is helping people overcome, not just treat, but overcome mental health hangups like depression and anxiety. I'm happy to report that I've been medication free now for well over a decade. And it's simply due to the fact that I learned how to treat myself naturally and overcome this depression and anxiety. We're going to talk not specifically about the exact specifics of my treatment. I'm going to talk globally about what some answers are and what we can do with those answers to help people to maybe even obliterate depression and anxiety altogether one day in the future. Now, as you're keenly aware, the human body is exceptionally intricate. Some may even say it's complicated. I personally don't believe that the human body is complicated at all. It's complex for sure, but it's not complicated. And it would be easy to assume, based on what science and modern medicine teaches us, that we can be reduced to the sum of our parts, such as our DNA or our hormones or our chemical and electrical signals. In my humble opinion, the belief of reducing us to the mere science and mathematical formulas that people tell us that we are would be an error. We're much more than that. We're spiritual beings as well as physical beings. And I'm not going to get into the spiritual aspect of depression and depression recovery in this episode, but I will be talking about it in the future. So this brings up the question, is our DNA and the DNA profiling emerging as possibly the smallest part of our biology that forward-thinking health professionals are learning to work with? And the answer would have to be, at this point, it is yes. Now, are there very many people that are doing that? No. In fact, I'm hard pressed to find 30 people in the United States that are doing this wholeheartedly. There are some health professionals that are adding DNA profiling here and there, but it's hit or miss. And they're not really focusing on DNA profiling and the importance of it. But this is the beautiful thing that will certainly create many advances for the optimization of the human body beyond sickness care, once we're able to wrap our minds around the importance of DNA profiling. It just hasn't caught on in mainstream medicine yet. Now, what do I mean by the phrase beyond sickness care? I'll go on record now and say that DNA profiling will be one of the first things checked, the first things done shortly after a person's birth. Mark my word. I mean, wouldn't we want to know exactly where potential hangups, pitfalls, and potholes are in the road of our personal human journey, our unique human journey through this life, so that we can put an early intervention plan in place to deal with issues before they even become problematic, much less consume our life. I mean, think about it. What if we could identify depression, and not only identify it, but intervene on this depression decades before it reared its ugly head? And what if we could do the same for anxiety? And what if we knew a child's tendency towards ADHD or ADD before they even started attending school? And we could put measures in place to support that child, to support them having healthy attention, concentration, focus, and less hyperactive movement before it caused them major social and academic adjustment issues that are common among ADD kids and that are known for killing creativity and self-esteem. Sure, in all likelihood, the DNA profiling we have at our disposal right now, today, will probably be used in sickness care first, because that's pretty much the only paradigm or frame of reference that most healers operate with at this point in history. In fact, it's the only frame of reference that healthcare recipients, clients, patients are able to understand at this point. But the tides will turn. Trust me on this. Mark my word. Checking genetics first, DNA first, whether at birth or prior to treating an illness, will be the largest paradigm shift in global health and wellness care since Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928. I believe it. I feel it deep in my spirit. I know it's coming. I don't know many people that are talking about it. In fact, I don't know of any other person that's talking about it, but it's coming. We have the technology. It's just not mainstream yet. I've been doing this for years now, and I've been perfecting a methodology that will do exactly this. Now, before you get too excited, I've not performed genetic testing on any children or infants yet, but it's only a matter of time. And when that day comes, we will likely see the first generation where depression and anxiety rates are cut by as much as 50%. And over the coming generation after that, I firmly believe that we can reduce depression and anxiety rates to nearly 0%. Right now, I'll continue to use my model on adults who already struggle with these areas, knowing that it's much more difficult to treat someone after the fact, even than it is prior to them developing something like depression or anxiety in the first place. Unfortunately, prevention doesn't sell. It doesn't sell very well at all. And I'm not talking about dollars and cents and marketing and all that stuff. I simply mean to say that the vast majority of people, consumers, health professionals, are not turned on by prevention. So until we are able to evolve past our microwave mentality of the 30-second quick fix, prophetic healers like me will continue helping the sick and afflicted with advanced techniques like DNA profiling. And we'll continue to preach our message that one day there will come a day where we won't have to worry about depression and anxiety because we're going to catch it at the time a person is born. But you know what? When you begin the afflicted person journey with proper and thorough DNA profiling, I've found that things like depression and anxiety resolve super fast. Now, you may be asking, how fast is super fast, Dr. Brian? Well, it varies from person to person, but I can tell you this: knowing a person's DNA code, the thing that makes every cell tick, so to speak, is the critical part that modern mental health treatment is leaving off the table at the present moment. And if you really want to know how fast super fast is in just a very narrow range, I used to see people who had significant depression and anxiety. It would take them anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get to a place where we could say, okay, this is a really good place to be. Now with DNA profiling, I'm able to see those improvements in as early as 4 weeks and as much as 12 weeks. So in 4 to 12 weeks, I'm able to see a person turn around. And those that are on medications and have been trapped in that medication roller coaster, they're able to see for the first time that maybe I'll be able to get off of these medications. And in an overwhelming majority, I would say, not looking at the numbers in the past 6 months, but in the 6 months ago when I looked at the numbers, an overwhelming majority, 85% of patients who are on medications are able to get off medications. I don't advertise that because it's very dicey. It's very risky advertising that because it's an individual person's journey. There's a lot of hard work that has to be done. There are things that I give you advice on, and if you don't do them, it's not going to happen. So I can't just blanketly say 85% of everybody that does DNA profiling is going to get off medications. I can't say that. And I think you understand why. But if you're willing to do the work and put in what it takes to do this, you can overcome that. I'm living proof of that. But all of this inability of modern medicine, modern psychiatry to even recognize DNA profiling and incorporate it into everyday clinical practice is one of the reasons I left mainstream psychiatric practice 12 years ago and started doing functional medicine. And in the past few years, became even more specialized as a DNA expert, not just in mental health, but in a global person's health in general. If you're battling with depression or anxiety right now, and by the way, When I was talking about the blood brother pact and suicidal ideation, I wasn't trying to make light of it. I was just trying to tell you a story from my past. If you're struggling with suicide, get help. If you're struggling with depression and anxiety, get help. You don't have to sit there being miserable. If you're battling with depression and anxiety right now and you're over 40, right now you're my perfect client. I work with clients over 40 amazingly well. Not that I don't people in their 20s and 30s. It's just a lot of times people in their 20s and 30s, they're just busier, and they tend to, their 30-year-olds are kind of in the family mode, and things don't get done like they should. 20-year-olds are kind of in the socialization and living life mode, and the same thing happens. 40-year-olds, things are starting to really get their attention, and they're really buckling down and serious about, okay, can we really overcome this, and can we move forward? So that's the only reason I say if you're 40 and over, because I'm at this point in my career, I'm really interested in working mostly, not that I won't work with 20 and 30 somethings, but I'm mostly interested in working with people that have their head on straight and they really want to move past this. So if you're battling with depression or anxiety, or maybe you've listened to this podcast and you have a family history of either of these conditions, and you simply want to get ahead of developing anything problematic, you're in that prevention mindset, thank God. Then message me on Facebook or Instagram at Dr. Brian G. Brown. I'll be glad to show you the steps that you need to take in order to get started. And if you're one of those self-starter type people, and I know there are a lot of you out there, and you want to know more about DNA profiling, you're just kind of curious about it. You want to kind of sit on the sidelines a little bit, and you want to take steps towards going deeper and furthering your knowledge about your healing journey as it pertains to DNA profiling. I've got the perfect solution for you. I created a short self-paced program to walk you through all the steps. It's called the Gene Hack Bootcamp. And you can subscribe for free right now at drbriangbrowns.com/gene-hack/bootcamp. That's all I've got for today. Tune in next Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time for our next In the Zone segment, where I'll be sharing more about research as it pertains to insights about optimizing your physical and emotional health, and as it pertains to genetics and DNA profiling and how that can help you optimize your life and move past these hangups and pitfalls that we have. Most informed, most trusted, and most grateful that you spent this time with us today. Until next time, stay in the zone. I'm Dr. Brian Brown.